we have three kind of different questions. The first one having to do with sort of the classic question of the middleman, right? Is our farmers and consumers benefiting, or are all the margins and the benefits going to the middle, right? And that was a fundamental question that I think we were trying to address in this presentation. Bart, I don't know, you want to take that on? And then the one on maize consumption, the question from Zambia. Governments are very commonly use the sort of fear of socio-political unrest due to high prices or volatile prices of staples as a rationale for subsidizing the prices or controlling the prices of staples. And yet, at the same time, at this conference, we've been talking about improving nutrition through the diversification of diets. So I have to turn to Bonnie for that one. And the last question had to do with initiatives. We've talked, and you just recognized initiatives that support poor people as consumers, right? But your question was, are there other initiatives that governments could do to support sort of poor people, you said in the production sector, but how about poor people to participate in the value chain itself through processing, through trading, through other kinds of activities involving storage? Can I expand your question to that?
Please do.
Okay.
This is exactly what I was thinking. Thank you.
And I'm going to turn to Eric for that one, because I know he's thought a lot about it as he's looked at sourcing chickens and thinking, how that can happen. And he also made the comment about smallholders. So I'm going to turn to you, Eric, for that last one, okay? It's a bit of a stretch, but I'm sure you can do it. So with that, Bart, can you talk about the integration of the market and the classic sort of assumption that the middlemen grab all the profits and cheat the producers and the consumers alike?
Yeah, so what in the markets that we looked at in these Asian countries, we tried a little bit to understand what was going on in these commercial zones, right? They were really supplying major end markets. In general, these markets are very competitive. It's a tough market for these guys. These traders don't make a killing. If they start overcharging, they're out of the market. So it's very competitive. And that's what you see. If these guys are, the costs are actually reflecting mostly the margins that these guys make with a little bit of markup. We also looked in these zones what these supermarkets are actually doing. So what these supermarkets are doing, they are bringing more choice. Okay, they bring the cheap traditional goods there, the traditional rice, they will bring it there, but they also bring the high branded rice, the quality rice at a very high price, and that's usually where they make a lot of money. Okay, so they provide a lot of choice, but the higher quality products, the branded products, they will sell it at a high price, and that's where they usually make their money. Okay, now are these farmers being squeezed by these supermarkets? A big concern in India at the point when we were there. They really offer the same price. They actually offer better conditions for the farmers that deliver to the supermarkets. A very nice example was when the government in UP said we will not allow supermarkets anymore in UP. The farmers went on strike. That really indicated they were actually benefiting from this modern supply system that was being put in place. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you. Bonnie?
Yeah, thanks, Annie.
Jump into the diet question and government policy with regard to staples versus more nutritious
I think
commodities.
The problem. This is why micronutrient malnutrition is so right. You've got very cheap staple foods, and we can't get the price down for the diversified diets. So the choice is fill your belly. But I think if you talk to Eric and some of the other entrepreneurs we're working with, they're on their own. I mean, aside from KEBS, how much do you actually rely on government to help support you? They're relying on investors. They need to get private capital. So there is a government enabling environment around getting private capital to what would be considered risky investments, but they're not reliant on subsidies from government. They have to go it on their own. So which is why they need our help. Now the good news is that this whole entrepreneurship, private sector investment is really becoming part of the dialogue in development. The Feed the Future initiative has private sector and small enterprises right in the middle of it. That's nearly what, a little over $1 billion that's dedicated to public-private partnerships and private sector development. And governments are also, they're recognizing that. So I think it's a very changing and dynamic area of investments into the small and medium-scale enterprises. I do also want to address that I do think you need to get the Ministry of Health working much more closely with the Ministry of Agriculture and every opportunity to bring them together, because they will emphasize this need for dietary diversity in addition to every other large challenge that they face. But before I let go of the mic and we start talking about dietary diversity and the success of the private sector, I don't know if you caught it. Eric's ambition in the next 2 years is to go from 120,000 people eating his chicken to 500,000 people in 2 years. Look at the strength of this market. It's enormous. If these guys, we can get them moving.
So, Eric, I'm going to ask you to be very quick and to address some of those challenges that you had in one of your slides, what the government could do better in order to make your business grow faster, contribute to diversity of diets, provide low-cost food to poor consumers.
I totally agree with you. One of the things is that, number one, as Bonnie has said, you'll get retro support from the government. And most what happens is that for the government to hear your voice, then you have to join a lobby group. Because the lobby group will act as a negotiating bloc for the people. And the government will hear the lobby group, just like my friend from Zambia said, by the virtue that they know that they'll come back for the votes. And they look at the numbers. So with that sense, number one, you've asked a question regarding the people who buy the product in terms of their wages. One of the things is that we usually make sure that as a private, small, medium enterprises, is to encourage those people to join a labor organization. In the sense that the labor organization will be the one to negotiate for their wages, because it will be a group. And in that sense, it means then that once their wages are negotiated, basically they cannot be exploited. So in that, and what happens is that we are in a scenario like in our country whereby even if someone is called a cashew, they'll be required to pay National Hospital Fund. They'll be required to pay National Social Security Fund. Because we've been a country of consuming and we are not saving anything. So by the time you are at the age of retirement, you have nothing. So it's a requirement now, right from July, that even if you've employed someone who comes to your place only one day, there'll be no terminology like cashews. They'll be required to pay for those funds. The hospital funds caters for your children in terms of medical. The Social Security funds takes care of you at all age. So we encourage those people to join those organizations. The other thing is that we also need to train those people even on how to prepare the products, because you can provide to them a very safe, nutritious product, but the preparation then leads to leaching of nutrients. So with that then, we make sure that we join the public health educators, and they give you a chance to educate those people on the good cooking methods. And that's also the consumer, also there is what we call the Consumer Protection Organization that looks at the exploitation and protects the consumers. So once those people are aware of their rights, then they'll demand their rights. The thing is that when they are not aware of their rights, they'll be exploited, and they'll never know they're being exploited. So it's good to educate them and also help them to change their attitude, because some of these things are based on socio-cultural aspects.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm not going to summarize the talks that all of these folks made, and I apologize to those of you in the back who I know had some questions that we didn't get around to answering. I sense, though, from the wall behind me that the Ethiopian party has already started. And so join me in thanking this incredible panel for sharing their experience with us.